Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be my introductory video number 2. I realized that after I recorded the first one that I neglected to tell you very much about myself, so that is why I am going to start to record this one. First of all, I want to apologize for using ums and uhs so much in my speech. I tend to do that when I am lost in thought, and it's been something that I've dealt with probably all my life. I had an incident when I was in high school. I was giving a presentation for a scholarship with a panel of judges, and I found myself losing my train of thought, and I went completely blank. And I was mortified, even though it probably only lasted less than a minute, but in my mind, it felt like forever. And I just, ever since then, I have this fear that I'm going to lose my train of thought. So I use a lot of uhs and ums as a way of trying to gather my thoughts, if you will. And unfortunately, it doesn't look very good when you're giving a presentation or when you're recording a video like this one. I tend to do that a lot, so I wanted to apologize in advance. But now you know a little bit of the history of why I do that, and I think a lot of people probably struggle with that as well. I've never liked presenting, and it's not, I shouldn't say I don't like it. I have a fear of presenting. So in working on this YouTube channel, I am hopefully going to overcome some of that. And hopefully I don't do too much editing in between, because I think that takes away some of the free-flowing content, if you will, that I was hoping to achieve. So there you have that. Let's see, what else did I want to cover? Okay. I don't know if I mentioned last time my age. I'm 59. The plan was originally to look at retiring before I think Social Security kicked in and all that, but there's sorry, losing my train of thought, but there's the whole health insurance that comes into play and things of that nature that have to be considered. And I'm not even sure when we're going to retire, but it's something that we are discussing. And in a future video, I plan to cover a little bit more of our thought process and the things that we're coming up against and having to consider. I've also, me and my husband have also recently become empty nesters. Our daughter went away to college for the first time last year, so we're having to navigate, just us being back to a couple versus a family. So if that makes any sense, we're having to learn or relearn, maybe spending time with each other. So that is something that I am going to cover in a different video too, what that's been like. We recently moved from Illinois to the fine state of South Dakota. And one of the reasons that we did that was my mother passed away in 2021, and we were remaining in Illinois to care for her. Actually, we brought her to Illinois from Indiana, but that's a whole other story. But her care was centered in Illinois at that point, and we didn't want to relocate her. So when she passed away in 2021, we had the opportunity, it was during the pandemic time, and we had the opportunity to move. And part of that, the consideration for moving, was retirement, how to set ourselves up in a better spot for retirement. And luckily, I say luckily, one of the upsides of the pandemic was that my work allowed me the ability to work remote, and it was called, the program it is called Work From Anywhere, and I am grateful for that program because I was able to bring my job with me to South Dakota. So again, that's going to be another topic, the relocation and the process for that and why we did it and all the things that we can, not all of the things because there's probably some things I'm going to miss, but the things that we considered when making that move. But it did happen relatively quickly right after my mom passed away. It was, she passed away in March of 2021. We relocated, or I relocated first to South Dakota in August of that year. We had put a bid on the house and we won the purchase of the house, but we needed somebody to live in the house and we weren't quite ready for that. But what we ended up doing was I moved here and my husband stayed in Illinois with my daughter so that she could graduate with the high school that she was familiar with. We didn't want to uproot her at that point, so that's a whole other discussion. So but that's basically why and how we moved to South Dakota. Another topic that I would like to cover in my series of videos will be weight. I have struggled with my weight all my life, like a lot of people. It's always been, well, it hasn't, oh, well, maybe it has been. I think the only time I was ever probably a normal weight would have been early elementary. My father was military, career military, and we moved around a lot when I was growing up. And I was born in Tokyo, Japan. My mother is Japanese. We then moved back to the States, and then we moved to Okinawa, and then after Okinawa, we moved back to the States. And it was during that time period when my weight started going up. I don't know if it was the food or if it was just, stress from having to make a whole new group of friends or whatever it was. I started getting chunky, and I have many memories of incidents that happened, because I was a big kid. And, I think back then in elementary school up to the 6th grade, they used to weigh us. They used to line us up and we would all, it was like a physical, I guess they would do in the school, and they would weigh us. And I remember looking at the scale, and in 6th grade, I don't even know how old I was in 6th grade, but at that age, I was still a child, but I weighed as much as an adult, and it was shocking. It was embarrassing, because you got weighed in front of all the other kids in school, so everybody knew. It wasn't like private information or anything like that. So anyhow, it went off on a tangent. What was I trying to say? Okay, struggling with weight all my life. I'm going to go into some of this in other videos, but in 2019, I started keto, and since keto, I was able to drop some weight. This was one of the many times I was able to drop weight, but it always came back, and now I am working on maintaining my weight through a low-carb lifestyle, and that too is a struggle, and it's always going to be a struggle, probably for the rest of my life. I am finding it difficult since my husband and daughter moved to South Dakota with me. I was doing really well on my own because I could, just focus on myself and eat what I wanted. I'd prepare my own meals. We wouldn't go out, or I wouldn't go out by myself. I have a fear of going out alone, like eating alone, not going out alone, like shopping and stuff. That stuff doesn't bother me. But if I'm going to a social function or trying to go to a restaurant, I haven't broken that barrier of feeling comfortable going it alone. So when I was here by myself that whole year in South Dakota, I managed to actually lose more weight. And then when my husband and daughter moved up here with me, it's been fluctuating. So it's a struggle. It definitely is a struggle. But that is one of my other topics that I want to get into, because I've been on lots and lots of diets. And fortunately, I like to journal. And I have been keeping a journal since 2010. And I'm probably going to be referencing some of those journals in making videos to show you or talk about some of the struggles that I've gone through with my weight. Even before 2010, I had done Weight Watchers, I had done Jenny Craig, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another topic of discussion. Oh, and I wanted to say that going back a little bit, when I was growing up, we moved around a lot when I was growing up, because my father, being military, retired military, and then he worked civil service. During civil service, we actually moved to an island called the Azores, which is owned by Portugal. And that was a whole nother thing. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but in my high school years, I wasn't rebellious, but I kind of closed myself off, and I became a pouty teenager, and I didn't want to partake in a lot of the local festivals and things like that. And to this day, I regret it, but I was being a pouty teen, and I refused to go anywhere, and blah, blah, blah. So I can go over that later. Unfortunately, I don't have any journals from that time, but I do have some photos and things like that I can share. And let's see, what else? Aging. That's another topic that I want to cover. And that ties into retirement, but I am finding myself thinking about mortality, with my parents passing away in the last decade, and myself, dealing with becoming a senior citizen. That's hard for me to say, but becoming a senior citizen and having to deal with some of the things that come along with that. Now, you probably noticed that I have gray hair. I have had gray hair since my 20s, and I fought it for the longest time. And I had, because I took after my mother, I had black hair growing up, and I was dyeing my hair to the point where in my 20s and 30s, my hair started to look like a helmet. It was so flat in color and texture, and it didn't really move. It was not my best look. Let's just say that. So at some point in 2010, I believe, when I started journaling on my computer, I decided just to transition to my natural hair color, and I haven't looked back since. And it's been a blessing, but I did deal with some of the thoughts of looking older because my hair is gray. There's that whole mentality that gray hair is associated with age. So, you have to deal with preconceived notions. Let's just say that. Oh, my computer went dead. Let me turn that on. See, I don't know what I'm supposed to be talking about without my notes. Okay, sorry about that. This is how it's going to be. Mortality, I touched on that. Let's see what else we got here. Journaling. Let's see. Oh, lost my mouse. Oh, good Lord. Lordy. Okay, moved around. So here we are. We live in South Dakota. We have 3 fur babies. Even though we are empty nesters, we do have 3 fur babies. 2 of the dogs are siblings, and they are under 2 years old. And it's odd because they look nothing alike. One is much bigger than the other one. He's got to weigh a good 20 pounds more maybe than the other one. And he's black or brown. And then the other one, his brother, is white and brown and tricolored, and his name is Bubbly. So, go figure. We don't even know for sure if they're from the same letter, but that's what we were told. So we're going with that. And then our third dog, he is a mixed breed as well. We think that they're all some sort of beagle type mix, but Toby was my mother's dog, and we adopted him when she passed away. And I want to say he's like 6, so I'd have to look that up to be sure. But he's not he's not a youngin like the other two. So and he's got a little more hair, and let me tell you, he's a shedder. So if you know anything about dogs, it's almost impossible to keep their hair from getting all over everything when they're in shedding season. So 2 of them that's the other thing. One of the pair of the siblings, one doesn't shed, the other one does. So Bubbly, the tricolored one, sheds like crazy. Rolo does not. So we haven't figured it out. At some point I might do a DNA test on them just to see if they are related, and then to see what breed they are. So hopefully I didn't bore you with all of this extra content. It got a little bit longer than I had planned. Oh, and one more thing you might want to know about me is that I am addicted to purse shopping. Yes, I have a purse fetish. I like purses. I like to buy them. I like to use them. And I do have a couple of really, really nice high-end purses. But the thing with me is when I buy new high-end handbags, I have a fear of using them. I have a fear that they're going to get destroyed. It's a whole other thing. And at some point I might bring those out and showcase those, but suffice it to say, I have a lot of purses, and I really probably should scale back because I'm only one person. I can't carry around that many purses in what's left of my life. So unless I carried one a day, then maybe. But anyhow, so that is it. This is my second intro video, and from here on out, I am probably going to try to create playlists for each of the different topics and go over those, and hopefully they won't be as long as this. But I do appreciate you coming back, and if you're new, thank you for checking out my video. Hopefully you will stay and subscribe. I'm not necessarily doing this for money or monetary reasons, but if it happens, it happens. My thought process for this was maybe to keep this as an online journal. If nobody comes to visit me, well, I'll be a little bit sad, but it's more of a record of my life for myself. So, but I do appreciate everybody watching this and sticking with me, and hopefully you will be back. And I would love to hear comments you might have, because this is definitely an open type forum. I'd like to hear what other people are struggling with, and just who you are, and maybe content you might like to hear about. So with that, I will sign off, and hopefully I didn't use ums and ahs as much as I did the first time when that short video, but we'll see. Thank you, and have a great day. Oh, see, I don't know how this is supposed to work. I thought that if you waved your hand in front of the record button, it was supposed to shut off, but no, it looks like I'm just waving. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way and just hit the button.